My pleasure this morning for the first inductee is Thomas Duck. Tom Duck is the youngster on the, he looks like he's still going here. Believe it or not, Tom is now a professor in the Department of Physics and
Atmospheric science.
Whatever science.
I'm like a lawyer.
At Dalhousie, and he's a specialist in, I hope I pronounced this right, is it called LIDAR? LIDAR, which is laser radar technology, which is just like way over my head. And atmospheric scientist. He is currently, I would suggest your passion seems to be the atmosphere and pollution and things like the Phoenix Mars Scout team. He's got a variety of things that are in his curriculum and his passions, but he started off by getting out of York University with a BSc and a PhD way back in the 90s. I graduated in the 70s, so the 90s is like around the corner for me, but that's how he started off. And during his, I guess it was part of your thesis or graduate research program, he went to the high Arctic, experienced the, I would suggest a phenomenon of the high Arctic and its environment. And from there, I assume that you were fascinated by all of this and you helped co-found the Canadian Network for the Detection of Atmospheric Change in 2003. And the current media thing you see quite a bit, I suggest, is this lack or declining sea ice cover that is affecting so much of the high Arctic and areas in Hudson's Bay, and you see the polar bear issues that the pack ice is declining dramatically, and it's part of the global warming problem that we have in the world today. Even though he went to York forever and a day and graduated PhD, he decided to go to MIT and went to the, I guess it's the Haystack Observatory, and it was still studying this laser radar technology in connection with the study of pollution and smoke transport. From there he went on to get on the Phoenix Mars Scout team, and that's the spacecraft that recently landed on Mars in the northern plains of Mars and was seeking out water. And part of what Tom has done is contribute to the creation of the meteorological station that's part of the probe that landed. And I see Keith is here. That's a detention for Keith Carson. So it's my pleasure to have Tom inducted. I'd like him to come forward and try and explain some of what I tried to tell you. And Tom, please come forward.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be here and see so many familiar faces. I should say I'm speechless, but I'm not. Being long-winded is an occupational hazard. So I'll try to keep some things short at any rate. So what we do, I fire lasers into the sky for a living, which is a pretty exciting thing to be able to do. And we use that to take atmospheric measurements. I guess I originally learned how to do that at York University, but we've also been up to the Arctic and also on Mars now as well. So if you've seen recently the reports of seeing falling snow on Mars, that was from the work that we're doing on Mars. So it's pretty exciting, and so much of that came really right from this place. I feel so privileged to have been at this high school and have had so many fantastic teachers here, which has just had just an enormous impact and an enormous influence on my life. And indeed, when my brothers and sister and I got together last night, we all shared very similar stories in that vein. So I think the real pleasure for me today is to be able to say thank you and to call out a few different people. So one of the teachers that I had early on from across the street was Dan McConaughey, and I'm so excited you're able to come with us here today. Wow, where to begin? I mean, I had Dan for grades. Can I call you Dan?
Sure.
Thanks. I had Dan for grades 7 and 8, but I knew him actually a little bit earlier than that. When I was in grade 6, every now and then, Dan would sub into our class. You know, our teacher would have to be away for the day or something like that. And this man terrified me. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And he always seemed to call me out as well. And I didn't really understand that. And then I remember the first day of grade 7 when I find out, oh, good grief, I'm in his class. And I'm going to be in his class for the whole year. And it was the most wonderful experience in every way. Dan's passions are music, science, and math. The same passions that I have. And there's no doubt that was really very important to me in helping form that. So many funny things I can remember back from that time. Maybe you remember them too. The OTL club. Okay, that was the Out to Lunch club. Igor and Wolfgang, the cat's killer, the plant in the class, and learning so much about math and science and music. Thank you. Thank you very much for everything. There are a lot of other stories too, which we can share after. Bob McAlpine as well, I would like to say was a really wonderful teacher for me. I had him in grade 9. It was my first exposure to Shakespeare. Merchant of Venice is what we learned. And that was great. And of course, Bob was my pole vault coach all through high school. And what a great, wonderful experience that was. Not all learning is done in the classroom, and I learned so much from him. Mike Shavalovich asked, so which really tops things here for you? You know, your pole vaulting experiences with Bob McAlpine at the Ontario Championships or Mars? It's a tough call. In all seriousness, it's a tough call. It was, again, very, very wonderful. Jim Johnson, who I had for both grade 11 and 13 math. We had grade 13 back in the day, which was a good thing. It enabled me to do things like pole vault all the way through and take part in so many different things. Well, with Jim, we had grade 11 enriched mathematics, and we really had a terrific classroom of people. And Jim really pushed us hard, and I'm very thankful for that. And so are both my brothers and sister as well, that he really pushed us to learn more and more and to really just do the best we can. And we did all these math contests, which was really great. We got a terrific foundation in calculus. And for someone going into science, this was of absolutely enormous importance. It made first year calculus a breeze. Seriously, we learned so much here in grade 13 calculus that was, it just gave the real foundation and the real basis that we needed to be successful at university and beyond. So thank you so much for that. And there are lots of funny stories actually from back then as well. As many of you I'm sure know, Jim has a tremendous sense of humor. So many other teachers that I see here as well. Jim McGugan, who I had in grade 6, way back. Dr. Smerika, Peter Henderson. Dr. Smerika I had for physics. So physics has gone okay since. That was my first physics class and my first real exposure to physics, and I remember so many things from back then as well. Peter Henderson, I'll say as well. There's some real distinct things that you remember. See, there's this occupational hazard again of rabbiting on. But the thing that I remember him telling us is that anyone who calls themselves educated has to have read Plato's Republic. And that's what we did. And that was such a tremendous thing to be exposed to, and that was in grade 12 Ancient Civilizations course. Oh, there are a number of other people out here. I think probably I've been going on too long, but to all the teachers who have meant so much to me, and I have one more very important thank you to make as far as teachers go, and that's my mom and dad, who were the best teachers that we could have had, and have been so supportive to all of us, to my brothers and sister who are also all here as well. So they were, of course, very important to us in that they really supported us education-wise. They made education our first priority, and that really enabled us to take advantage of all of the wonderful things that we were exposed to at KCSS. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.